This week on Hermitcraft.
Yeah, guys, this is the Hermitcraft server, okay? Yeah, there's distractions left, right, and center. I mean, as you can see, I've got an arrow in my arm.
Welcome to the Hermitcraft recap. My name is Pixel Riffs, our writer is LoyXP. Captions on this video were provided by Liara. And despite all the goings on Hermitcraft this week, the biggest news for me is that I got my PC back, so I can go back to using my regular recording setup and sounding kinda normal again. Turns out I'm not the only one keen to broadcast my voice, as someone gave Doc M a megaphone, but more on that story later. For now, let's take a look at all the events and mishaps that occurred on the Hermitcraft server this week.
Did I grind enough to make the great goat leader proud? The answer is always, you could have done more.
Starting with Jevin, who celebrates reaching episode 51 of the season by touring his favourite builds on the server, which is a sneaky way of saying he tours pretty much all the builds on the server.
I'm not going to hit every single base because it would take hours upon hours, so we're going to start with Spawn. I love all of it, right? It's my favorite. So many good builds.
Very impressed with how far Hermitcraft has developed over the span of Season 9, Jevin jumps right into praising his server mate's building ability. And to think that the season started on a randomized seed after 2 months of not doing Hermitcraft at all. Overall, it's a nice 30-minute video to catch up on Hermitcraft in case you don't feel like watching 74 shorter videos explaining all of it.
Anything like that, because every base on the server deserves, its own full video. Really, really does.
If you want to catch up on False Symmetry's base in particular, look no further than Joe Hills, who gives us a past and present look at False's fabled Elytra course. Aside from False herself, Joe actually seems to have spent the most time there, being present for the initial test run, the grand opening, his own solo time trial, and a stream weekend along with False, Rendog, and Cubvan.
I burned four stacks, and at the beginning, I was like swapping them right as they got down to one. I'd like swap to the next one. And then in one of them, I just like didn't swap, and I just start falling, and I'm like, what? Why?
Unfortunately, Joe also seems to have spent more time getting around the course, and since prizes have now been handed out to the podium positions, we can assume Joe knocked his face against one too many bridges.
That is true,
nice.
Yeah.
Also, my next episode, I make fun of the third place prize.
What's the third place prize?
We'll never know now.
We'll never know.
Celebrating the history of the server, it makes sense to talk about Cubvan as he piles more things for his museum. Now going base to base, hunting for artifacts, Cub breaks into Jevin's storage system, happy to pay him for the assorted relics, be it in diamonds or other people's crowns.
And also, hopefully he enjoys his royal crown up there, which came from Cleo's museum, but shh, don't tell Cleo, don't tell Cleo.
What we failed to mention last week is that Cub also offered to make Jevin the voice of his museum, thanks to custom sound discs and Redstone-compatible jukeboxes. Though Cub does just fine with voiceover work himself, judging by the dramatic reading of Xenaf's historic Eel book.
Once upon a time, an eel went into a shop. The eel was very frightened. Then he'd end up in eel heaven. Okay. 12, 13, 14, 15, the end. Yeah, beautiful.
That was a book Zed used in Season 5 for custom Lectern redstone signal strength, by the way. It's also quite ironic how Cub finds a legitimate, genuine fossil while looking for diamonds to pay Jevin for his half-faked artifacts. He'll have at least one more free exhibit though, courtesy of Rendog, who meets up with Cleo and Cub to set up a pop-up artifact stall and deliver the dueling curators some more royal curios. In the case of Cub, Ren magnanimously offers the collection of minerals Cub submitted to the Crown as proof he had broken the all-minerals speedrun world record. But since those weren't the actual minerals Cub had acquired for the run, Ren declares them worthless and takes them all back again. I mean, I'm pretty sure the diamond is worth something, even in this economy.
Be gone with your wares, that's what you get today.
This shrewd business head of Rendog is about to have another hit on his hands because Boombox Records is almost ready for its grand opening in the shopping district. Ren returns to Gigacorp Island to collect stock for the shop, which is basically exterior complete at this point. He just needs to outfit the interior to start raking in the profits. And some of those profits will surely come from DocM77, who has gone full dystopian future on us this week, attaching some copper loudhailers to his perimeter flagpole and making use of the fact that you can now set the audible range of custom music discs. Doc sets up a series of recorded messages that play at dawn, dusk, and occasional random moments during the day. He originally sets them to broadcast server-wide, but later reins it in to just his immediate neighbours, Scar, Grian, and Mumbo. And also apparently Azuma, who seems to be farming Skulk just behind the Hall of Goat, but that's probably nothing to worry about.
Good night. Before you lay your head to rest, ask yourself, did I grind enough to make the great goat leader proud? The answer is always, you could have done more.
This is so evil. Oh my god.
Anyway, Doc's whole premise here, aside from the Bioshock power fantasy of it all, is to show Scar how his theme park announcement system can run like clockwork, if only you hire Doc as your clockmaker and ignore the fact that he has to use villagers as the cogs. For those who prefer their Doc M wisdom a little quieter, he also drops off the book of his personal philosophy, made up of quotes crowdsourced from his community, at Cubfans Museum. But Doc has one more trick up his sleeve. After adding the target blocks to his billboard, assuming Grian and Scar would have a go at shooting it, Doc reveals he's rigged it to blow the Buttercup's Barbie Dream campsite sky high, including packing TNT all around those sniffers, which we're pretty sure constitutes a war crime.
You know they will not resist to press the sign, right? You know they can't resist it. We all know.
We'll tell you right now, the Buttercups attack Doc's shenanigans head on. They smash against the target blocks on Elytra, which works for some reason. I guess it really is too late to try and save face.
Let's go!
Wait, it did work!
Really?
Yes, it worked!
Oh, dude, it worked! Oh my god! What is it doing?
Oh!
Grian! My tent, Grian!
Oh, the camp's gone.
With their camp now in shambles, Scar and Grian decide to build a new base of operations and maybe pick out a more durable plant this time. As such, the two of them plant the biggest bonsai you've ever seen right into the pot once housing the Buttercup slime robot, while Gemini Tay's lawyers are sharpening their pens somewhere out there. For what it's worth, a quick Google confirms that most cherry plants are also poisonous to goats. Doc's really got to start cutting out these toxic relationships.
Me and Scar, with zero communication, managed to build this off of a single reference image. But the rest of the tree looks simply incredible.
To further foster some plants, Grian decides to cover up his ink farm with a greenhouse gazebo done in the style of his Season 7 barge, and it proceeds to look too empty for his liking until Grian fills it chock full of cocoa beans, which, now that I think about it, chocolate is also poisonous to goats. Is there any food Doc actually can eat? Hold on a second. Oh, phew, at least tomatoes are fine. It remains to be seen if he can eat up the competition for Scarland Handyman, because Impulse SV at least is putting up a heck of a fight. Instead of bothering anybody within a half-mile radius with his invention, though, Impulse simply rigs up a functional park entrance turnstile which can detect whether you've got a day pass or a season ticket.
And now we know we're getting signal from this, so Scar did mention maybe activating some kind of, something like... I don't know.
Doc gets some subtle revenge for this when Impulse goes to get a red crown from the button in the shopping district and falls into Doc's block swapper from that one time he endostasised himself to the button. In before Doc insists this was a 4D chess move he'd planned all along. But as the king under the mountain, Impulse needs a forge fit for a king, and now the ceiling has been completed in another epic time-lapse, another king shows up to help him wiggle the new armor stands into position over the lighting fixtures. And they're looking pretty snazzy on their own, considering he's found enough ancient debris to deck them all out in netherite armor.
Teacher, I have a question. See? Yeah.
I am no longer a teacher. I don't have to ask questions.
Yeah, exactly.
His ore spotting skills might come in handy for XB Crafted's new minigame. Still in the concept stages but looking fairly promising, XB is outfitting a cave environment with an underground diorama for a game that's a mixture of Aber caving and I Spy. Players will pay a diamond block to access a viewing platform where they will attempt to spot as many ore blocks as they can, scoring points for the rarest ones, and the highest score will take home all the diamond blocks people paid to enter.
So my initial thought with this thing was to build, to dig out my own cave and all of that. That way I could, make sure that there were no ores whatsoever, but then I remembered this cave was here.
XB has a few tricks up his sleeve too, planning to add texture to the cave walls and decoy blocks in a few choice locations so the ores have a harder time standing out. Vintage Beef is also being drafted in to help with the project, as the premise is inspired by Aber Caving, and not at all inspired by XB Crafted beating him in their latest TCG match.
Yep. Well, GG's.
Very good game.
I'm officially 0-1 on the season.
And finally, there's Tango Tech, who straight up refuses to show any of the final Decked Out 2 level on camera. Fair enough, as to not spoil the surprise for his players, and God knows we've been over-explaining every new thing he adds for the entire season, and over-explaining it wrong half the time, but this has distinct DM rolling and giggling energy, so brace yourself for when it finally opens up. Which may be after the actual game launch, by the way, so that's an insane task to pull off, building the grand finale while 10 blocks above you, Etho is dodging the Warden Blasts. So we wouldn't quite have much to say about Tango this week if, you see, finally, there wasn't a ZF.
I was going to say one word and you were going to get it, but I don't even need to say a word. All I need to do is drop this on the floor. And I think you'll know.
It's been some time since when ZF and Tango discovered that you can actually fly mobs on leads great distances as long as you don't pick up too much speed. And 2 full revivals later, it's once again time. The aerial sheep service rides again. ZF invites Tango onto a floating pilot sheep to achieve a feat like no other. Create a sheep who's never used a leg. Really putting atrophy into ZF collecting a trophy. Zed's challenge is to breed a sheep baby from 2 sheep dangling mid-air, then fly it on an elytra until it grows up, which would take 20 minutes of zigzag hovering if not for Tango co-piloting and feeding the fledgling wheat the entire time. So here they are, putting the mid-air into midwife.
It came out of Papa?
I think it's 50-50.
Oh no, that makes things so much more difficult.
That thing rocketed. Like, that was a forceful birth.
And that's about it for this week's recap. Our writer is LoyXP and my name is PixelRefs. Captions on this video were provided by Liara. Don't forget to leave a like while you're still here and subscribe so you won't miss future recaps. Thanks for watching and we'll see you next week.